order. We'll skip the Pledge of Allegiance and move to approval of minutes. The regular Board of Directors meeting minutes from June 17th, 2020 are in your packet.
Adam Harden, motion to approve.
Second by
motion
Abby.
to approve and a second by Abby. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
President English, would you prefer that I do a roll call vote?
No, I think we're fine.
Okay, thank you.
Public input, I understand we have no one that wishes to speak. So we'll move to new board appointment. The Tampa City Council has appointed City Council member Louis Vieira as an alternate. He's not on the line, but we'll welcome him when we can. It's a great addition. He's a great guy. Let's move to action items, please. Action item A is a resolution R 2020-0805, approval of the proposed fiscal year 2021 HART annual streetcar operations budget in the amount of $2,530,000. Ms. Stiglich, do you have anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, President English. Cindy Stiglich, for the record, interim CFO for HART. The budget that was presented to your board last month in June has remained unchanged from that presentation. So both action items A and B, respectively, for the HART annual streetcar budget and the THS corporate budget remained unchanged from that presentation. But I would certainly be happy to answer or clarify any line items that you may want further clarification on.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? It was a good presentation last month, and I understood it.
Thank you.
Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval, please?
This is Abby Ahern. I motion to approve the budget.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Harden, second.
Thank you, Adam. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed say nay. Thank you. Okay, resolution number R 2020-0806, approval of the proposed FY 2021 Tampa Historic Streetcar annual corporate budget in the amount of $1,484,018. Ms. Stiglich, anything you want to add?
No, sir. Again, if there are any questions on the attachment that delineate the line items, we'd be happy to clarify anything.
Okay,
motion
great.
to approve from Harden.
Second by Abby Ahern.
Thank you, Abby. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say nay. Thank you so much, Ms. Stiglich. Let's move to Streetcar System Performance Report. Mr. Allen.
Thank you. This is Brian Allen, Director of Streetcar Operations. For the month of July, I want to start out with missed trips. With the pandemic going on, we had 321.75 missed trips. This is almost all of them were caused because of a shortage of operators due to the pandemic. We had quite a number out that had to quarantine because they came in contact with people with COVID. So
Sure.
this had an impact on our operation. That being said, the trips that were ran at an OTP of 99.9% with only 4 reported late departures. We had one incident in July, and that was on the very last day of the month when switch malfunctioned in front of Sparkman's Wharf, and car 431 split the switch. There was no injuries, no damage to the 431, and the passing track was taken out of service at that location for the remainder of the day, and the switch was repaired after service ended. Ridership for the month was 31,070, quite a drop from last year of 76,043, but we've been steadily gaining ridership back from our low point in April, which was 14,078.
So that's some improvement.
Yeah. And finally, the only other thing I have to report is that on July 28th, Streetcar 429, which was involved in the accident with the tour bus, left here for Gomeco. As of last week, they had not had time to do a thorough evaluation of the car. Does anyone have any questions for me?
This is Commissioner Kemp. I was interested. Hey, how are you? I was interested in your ridership, and I'm sorry, I've gotten confused on whether I'm an alternative or not member. So it's been a little bit during also these COVID times. So there's been some confusion about some of the different things going on. But I was glad to hear about the ridership numbers. I'm always interested. I'm going to have to look in the backup. Do you do like a backup to show? And I was just very curious if your ridership numbers are increasing from their low because it's like during the day or peak time periods, or if it's nighttime, or if you could give any just a basic idea of that. I'd be curious.
Two things that are returning, our weekend ridership, and also as people go back to work in the downtown, our daily commuter ridership is increasing.
Great, thank you. I was curious how that was going.
Are you requiring people to wear masks on the streetcar?
Yes, sir, we are.
Good, great. And I assume there's hand sanitizer on every car?
No, we are fogging the cars with disinfectants during the day, and once again, requiring everybody to wear face masks. And we've got some of the seats blocked off so that people maintain distancing.
That's great. Good. Any other questions for Mr. Allen?
This is Abby. What are we doing to protect the motormen and women? I imagine it's kind of hard to put any kind of a plastic around them, correct?
Yeah. They are also wearing face masks. They're typically using the rear doors for exiting the car, so they have, only contact with them when they enter the car.
Okay.
Interesting. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Appreciate it. Appreciate everything you all are doing. Let's move to legal and legislative reports. Mr. Schmoker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One item of note, no official action is required at this point, but we're in the process of negotiating renewal of the public's advertising sponsorship agreement. If you'll recall, it was a one-year term. It was originally for $30,000. $10,000 of that was effectively the costs that were incurred by HART in actually implementing the advertising structures and the graphics. Publix has offered to renew at the amount of $20,000, which is the same effective net that the original agreement contemplated. So the plan is to prepare a renewal agreement. We'll be attaching the new sponsorship packages. It will potentially give Publix the ability to renew for a longer period of time than simply 1 year. Currently, they're offering to pay $20,000, which is the rate for 1 year, but who knows? Maybe they'll be interested in renewing for more than that period of time. And we have to run the agreement ultimately through the city, and so we'll draft the agreement. We'll run it up the flagpole with the city and with HART, and hopefully be able to bring it back to you for approval at the next regular meeting.
Mr. Smoker,
And that would complete my report.
Question on that.
I'm sorry?
This is Abby. Mr. Smoker, this is Abby. My question is, so they were paying $30,000 for the first year. Did we ask them for the renewal term to be at 30 and they came back at 20?
No, my understanding is, and I was not directly involved in those discussions, but my understanding was everyone knew that the original agreement at 30 reflected $10,000 worth of costs that HART and ultimately THS would have to absorb in order to implement the graphics at the station. And so since that's not going to have to happen again this time round, they're offering the same net $20,000 number that effectively was what we had last year.
Okay. I'd like us to keep in consideration that we will have costs if or when Publix is no longer the sponsor of that station.
I can get with...
Is it just staff, or Michael, have you been working on that as well?
No, I've had nothing to do with it. In fact, I just realized, I was just told that contract's actually expired, I think last month. So it's timely to get it resolved. I negotiating with Publix, as Hart staff knows, is not easy. You know, they're a giant company, and I don't know what our chances would be of receiving more than $20,000. I don't know if Adam has any opinions about that either. Or the commissioner. I think that since it's expired, I would really like to get a resolution to it that we can approve by our next meeting. Because they will have already had several months of a free ride, and if 20 is what, in your professional opinion, Mr. Rowland, that is the maximum we can attain, then I'm okay with that, personally.
Yeah, this is Tyler Rowland. Based off some benchmarking that after the last agreement and sponsorship that I went ahead and did, I looked at several other similar streetcar organizations such as Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Milwaukee, and we are right in line with our terms and the amounts that we are asking. And I can certainly provide that to the board. It's a pretty well done document that was done by another agency that has a lot of great data that kind of reflects that. And keep in mind, this is station sponsorship and not a total advertising sponsorship, which right. There's some variations in that. So just that's something to keep in mind.
I'd very much
Thank
like
you.
to see that, Tyler.
I think we all would.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd also like us to reevaluate when we first initially agreed to do this, or worked with Publix. We had talked about potentially going with a 3-year term with an option to terminate. I think that would be a lot less work on staff's time if you had a 3-year commitment from Publix with their ability to terminate each year, rather than having to go through a renewal process where they could change.
That's a good idea.
Sure, yeah, that's what Oklahoma City does. They actually require a 3-year minimum, but not all the agencies are doing it the same way, because it's just kind of new territory for a lot of streetcars as far as station sponsorship. So yeah, we could absolutely have that in consideration, but to kind of make it more. Publix should
be very used to it, and they should probably appreciate it, so then they wouldn't have to designate their time on it either. It would be simply in their calendar that says we either say we want to renew or we give 30 days notice to terminate. It would also give us a heads up and not run out of contract period and know whether we're going to have the cost to remove the advertising.
Sure.
So if that's possible.
Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing that analytical report and hopefully a deal by the time of our next board meeting. David and I have also talked about on another subject, our liability insurance policy for our board needs to be renewed. I've looked it over. He's looked it over. I've asked Hart staff through Danielle to look it over, make sure the information is correct. I don't think our board needs to vote to approve this, but it needs to be mentioned, at least for information. David, anything to add to that?
No, nothing, Mr. Chairman. I don't think it requires board approval. I think it's a ministerial task of the chairperson.
Okay, good. Okay, chair's report. Before I start on the election of officers, I really want to thank Hart staff. We've been busy since the last meeting. Hart staff has, of course, and we'll hear a little bit more about that later, but we've had Zoom meetings with both the downtown, actually all three, Downtown Shale District and Ybor CRA, advisory boards and board. we have pitched the downtown partnership. I appeared virtually at the city council meeting, and in all cases, we really received no resistance from either CRA funding or special assessment funding. And I want to thank Abby for doing one of them, and Dave Mechanic for doing one of them, and Adam volunteering to do one of them. It turned out I could actually do it. But Danielle has been arranging all this stuff, and Cindy and Brian and Ruthie Reyes particularly have all been working on it. And if I've missed any Hart staff, I want to thank all of you because it all went very smoothly, and we're done for another year. So thank you all. Election of officers, I assume everybody has the report, like the chair's report. We have two choices. We can either go through the process of nominations for the board. I'm a little reluctant to do it this month because everyone isn't here, but we have two choices. We can either go forward with new appointments to the board and the MPO's Technical Advisory Committee, or we can choose to stay with what we have for the remainder of this year, which is about half over. And I would invite opinions from board members, please.
I would move to stay, not move, but I would continue in what we have currently. I think it works out well for the rest of the year. Anybody else shares that concern?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think for status quo for now.
I also agree with that. I know we had a candidate that was interested in joining as a city appointee, I think, Megan Scalise. Does anyone know what ever happened with that?
I mean, who is that, Abby?
She's a resident and business owner in the Channel District. She's done a lot of murals around town. She's an artist.
I was not aware of that, but I'm sure she was told that the proper procedure is to ask the mayor's office of their interest in appointing her.
Yeah, ask her. But I don't know if it just got lost.
Yeah, you might suggest to her that she check with the mayor's office. I don't think Hart, you could tell me, Danielle, I don't believe that Hart's gotten any notice of another appointment other than Louis Vieira as an alternate, but I think we still have an open seat from the city side. I'm not positive of that. Does someone know?
I'm looking at the sheet, the second page, and it says under the City of Tampa appointees that there's a vacancy, but it says it's supposed to be a council member. So then on the next line it says that the council member is under the Hart alternative appointees. So
this is Danielle from Hart, if I may. So Councilmember Louis Vieira was appointed he's a Hart board member that was appointed to serve as an alternate by the Hart board, which is why he is under the Hart. And as far as we know, as far as staff knows, we have not received another appointee from the mayor's office or the City of Tampa's office for the THS board.
Would it be appropriate for us to ask the board secretary to email the city and ask them if there's or remind them that there's an appointment that needs to be made?
I think it's a good suggestion.
I do as well.
Abby, are you good with that? Oh, that would be you, Adam, right? Yeah. Who is the secretary? Is it Adam? Yeah.
Oh,
that'd be fine.
I meant Danielle. I apologize. The administrative secretary. But I'm happy to do it. That's fine. I can email Jean Duncan and tell her that there's an opening.
Sure. I think that would be fine. Anybody on the board have a problem with that?
No, I think it from what it appears to be the city council, a city council appointed. So it would have to go through them more than the mayor or the administration. But
City council doesn't appoint anybody to our board. Only the mayor.
What is that then? The city council member. It says vacancy.
Hart appointed him because he sits on the Hart board, so he's an alternate from Hart, not from the city.
No, I understand that.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Smoker, but I believe that what happens is, like, Vieira serves on the Hart board as the city council representative who's appointed by the mayor. So I think probably the Streetcar board's the same thing. The council doesn't appoint it. It's the appointment is of a city council person chosen by the executive. I think that's the way they've conducted it over there.
That must be it. So it must be, then it's a council member actually serving as a city of Tampa appointee.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Currently, Vieira is my alternate. He certainly could be appointed by the mayor as the permanent. We could have a new alternate.
I'm a little confused. I think only the mayor makes appointments to the city seats. I don't think the city council acts on it at all. We have had city council members.
That's what we just said. Yeah, that's what we just said.
All right. Okay. So I'm fine with you inquiring of Gene Duncan if the mayor's interested in making another appointment to our board. It would be nice to have a full board or close to it because we have a hard time with a quorum occasionally. So,
and if I understand, we have two seats that are actually open on the city of Tampa side. We have one where the mayor would appoint a city council member, and one where the mayor would appoint an alternate.
Yeah.
So maybe Megan Scalise was supposed to fit in. I know they vetted her, but I don't know where that ended up, Adam. So maybe that's just part of when you address that question for both cases.
Yeah. So I don't think we need a motion on it, Adam. If you'll agree to contact Gene and see what they're thinking.
Got it.
Okay, good. I do need a motion from you all to continue with the slate of officers and committee appointments that we already have till next April when we would normally make a selection.
So moved. This is Commissioner Kemp.
Thank you, Commissioner. May I have a second, please?
Harden, second.
Thank you, Mr. Harden. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, hearing none, the motion passes. That concludes my report. Hart Interim Chief Executive Officer's report. Ms. Stewart?
Good afternoon, Chairman English and THS Board members and Hart staff. This is Carolyn House Stewart with the Interim Chief Executive Officer's report. It's in your packet on page 22. Next slide, please, Danielle. The follow-up from the board action of the June 17th meeting required that the chairman, Mr. English, interface directly with the City of Tampa regarding the short-term and long-term economic feasibility of the streetcar. We confirm...
Oh, right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I'll report on that when you're done, too. Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, thank you. Staff followed up, and we've confirmed that all three CRA agencies have approved $150,000 for the fiscal year 21 contributions. They will move forward to the CRA board for approval. There's currently no sunset to the Channel District CRA, and the CRA statute allows for funding of commitments beyond the expiration date had it sunsetted. The next item is the outreach for Streetcar annual report. Chairman English has already updated you on the 6 presentations that were made for the various boards and commended the staff and others for participating in the presentations. The next item is the Streetcar Extension Project. Staff is working with the City of Tampa and Hart on this project and getting the documents in order. We will schedule a presentation to this board as an update in the immediate future regarding it. At the Hart Board meeting, the Hart Board did approve a letter to be sent to FTA supporting this project subject to funding from the sales tax. And if the sales tax funding is not approved by the Florida Supreme Court, then we would have to come back for another source of funding. Regarding the FDOT grant for support of the streetcar, an inquiry was made whether or not they will continue funding of fares after fiscal year 2021, and at this time it is uncertain. And so that's where we are with that, with our communications with the FDOT for funding after fiscal year 2021. And as you know, this grant supports our free fares on the streetcar, which has resulted in an increase in ridership since we've had this grant. And that's all I have. Any questions?
Let me just add that I did talk to several people in the city administration and in the transportation department, and what I learned was fundamentally what Ms. Stewart just reported. You know, we're going forward with the streetcar project, we just made a submittal to the FTA for some preliminary judgments, and I know it made everyone uncomfortable not to have all the funding in place, and it isn't in place. We will know sooner, hopefully, than later whether the Supreme Court will uphold this referendum. If it does, the funding will be there for the streetcar and a lot of other things that need funding at Hart and elsewhere. If it fails, the decision would have to be made to schedule another referendum, because there really isn't funding available for either the city's capital match or operating funds. And I know that concerns Hart, and I know it concerns the city. I commend both Hart and the city for moving forward with some confidence in hopes that we can figure this out before it becomes a bigger problem. DOT, I heard the same thing, that this was a one-shot grant, and they're not in a position to commit for further funding, either capital or operating for the streetcar, until such time as the city and Hart's capabilities are clear. So I appreciate everyone looking into it over the past month. We didn't know much about it exactly a month ago, and I think everyone knows more now. So it's all good for the moment, but, you know, our day of reckoning hasn't come yet, I guess, is the best way I can describe it. So thank you, Ms. Stewart, for your report. I appreciate it. And by the way, the end report was nicely done. I didn't compliment Tyler and the people that put it together, but it was good. Ruthie did a great job of presenting it, and it served its purpose as it generally does. So thank you all. Let's move to Vector Media Sales Activity Reports. Mr. Rowland.
Good afternoon. The current THS revenue as of through July is $97,148. The current list of advertisers which on the streetcars are Miller Lite, Coors Light, Tampa General Hospital, Anheuser-Busch, and Cigar City Brewing. There was no new business for the month of July.
Have you gotten any pushback from any of the advertisers about the fact that our ridership has dropped off significantly since the coronavirus appeared?
I have not directly heard anything from Lori Gage or Vector Media as far as any pushback. I know their sales are probably definitely struggling at a time like this because of ridership. But right now, I haven't heard anything from Vector. I know Lori. I believe Lori is on the call. If she wanted to chime in, she might be able to provide a little more insight to that.
Sure, Lori. Anything to add? Guess not. Yeah. We'll give her a second to see if she wants to say anything.
But I could certainly follow up with Lori and maybe provide some more information.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I think ridership is coming back, and hopefully the pandemic is coming back under control in Tampa, and it will help people It will, I lost my thought, I'm sorry. Hopefully we'll get it back under control. Ridership will go back up, and we'll find funding for the extension.
Yeah.
We now arrive at compliance reports. Ms. Haldo has a market report that's in your packet. Nancy Harper from the city has put the financial statements there. Any questions, any discussion on those matters? Hearing none, is there any old business to come before us? Any new business to come before?
I have a matter which I think is worth discussing quickly.
Sure.
So the Adam Harden, as you know, I brought up several times the issue related to this insurance and the CSX crossings, and I also, as far as the extension went, reached out to City Legal last year, and it was told to us, I guess, that they figured out that my theory that was true, that the portion of the CSX tracks through the middle of downtown are not in a right-of-way they own, but are in a city street. So that, essentially that gives us a different leverage in negotiating the whole crossing situation. So I'm not, it was fairly evident to me, just as somebody who develops land and understands the platting process and has previously read the ordinance or the state statute that allowed the railroads to build the tracks and then subsequently gain title to the property they built to them. So, but of course the city of Tampa was here before the tracks. And so I wonder how this affects, and the city didn't research this with regards to the existing crossings that we have, but it strikes me that the same request I made previously to David Smith, which hasn't been followed through yet on, needs to be followed through on, which is we need somebody to do an accurate title search on these existing crossings so that we can comprehend if we don't have the exact same situation here. I mean, the reality is that, these railroads at this point are failed enterprises, and their only asset is these rights of ways, and that they're basically now using these in a way to, first thwart, any crossings and that type thing, and that's all part of a strategy to increase the value and then force the localities to pay to get this property back. So, but it strikes me that, we need somebody on our legal staff to follow through with getting this title search and understanding if that, extends to the 13th Street crossing. So it may not, but, we do know that Ebor and that first cut of the port were part of the earliest parts of the city. So, but we need to know that answer. So sure. Before this insurance gets renewed again next year. So I don't know, is that something you could initiate, Mr. Smoker, or what do we need to do that?
We simply need to order a title search of the location.
Okay, cool.
And that will tell us, we can take it all the way back to the root of title.
That's all we need to do. There we go. So, I mean, we need a title search on the existing crossings.
Okay. I would anticipate probably $500 to $750 expense.
So is that something we need to make a resolution to approve, Chairman?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead, whoever.
Can I check with the city to see what we already have within? I know we have some information on Old Street crossings, but rather than go through anything yet, do you want me to check with the city to see what we actually have, any information that we actually have on those crossings?
That would be great, but what we need is, as Mr. Smoker said, is an actual title search that takes us to the root of the title. So, maps are maps, and how each map overlaps itself is not what's important. It's whether the railroad was coming from Brandon and expanding itself and then got to existing city streets and then constructed itself through them and then pops out on the backside of UT back into a new right-of-way. That's the question that has to be answered. So it's really, I think we need a title search.
Okay. This is Dave Smoker. I would supplement what Mr. Harden said. I seem to recall that this issue of the crossing and the amount of coverage that we have to maintain was a potentially sensitive issue that might be tied up with regard to issues associated with the expansion. And so I know Chairman English had expressed some concerns about how to go about in the most politically appropriate way to approach CSX and to see if they're willing to reduce the coverage amounts. So
right, exactly. And we've been on that path. But this path assumes that they have the right to even demand the insurance at all. So, and you know, I've been playing this. I do this development thing. I'm a land developer, so I've built a lot of CSX crossings. I get it. You know, TCO easements. I mean, they don't have more than they have. They may claim to have more than they have, but we need to know what they own and what the city owns. So, you know, in all likelihood, I mean, the city was predated those tracks in all likelihood. So, but apparently the city's done the research, and that's evidenced by the two crossings downtown, which, you know, makes perfect sense if you're, you know, from around here and you've seen all the old photos and understand the dates. But we need to know about these other crossings. So I think it would be of value to us to order a title search and understand it. Mr. Smith had indicated on a couple occasions that he was going to do that, but it hasn't happened. So I think it would be appropriate to, you know, to have the board attorney do that for us.
Happy to take care of it.
When you do that, and Ms. Stewart may wish to weigh in here or not, but the city transportation staff, I think, has information. It may not be sufficient for Mr. Harden, but they believe that they control that right away, and therefore CSX doesn't really have any leverage. I was there when we got stuck at the beginning, and we got stuck because CSX controlled that crossing. The irony of that is that we gave up a crossing before when 13th Street stopped, and the city wanted to build a right of way. And the long and short of it is that the city basically gave up a city-controlled crossing quite near the crossing we have now going into Ybor City, and that's when, and we all realized that when CSX said 2 months before we were supposed to open the streetcar system that we couldn't cross without $200 million worth of liability insurance, which became $100, and it's been a very expensive process. So,
yeah, and it's draining the foundation of all of its money, and it's one of the biggest single expenses which we may be able to control. So,
yeah,
yeah, okay. So, move to authorize the board attorney to spend up to $500 for a title search of the existing crossings.
I'd like to second that.
Sure.
Okay.
And you know, you might want to raise that fee a little bit more than $500. I would probably say $1,000 or $1,500, and give David a little bit of slack. I would also want that motion to include coordinating this with Mr. Smith, Hart's attorney, and with the Tampa City Attorney's Office, and with Dick Bedke, the Director of Mobility for the city, just so everybody knows what's going on. Is that a friendly amendment to your motion, Mr. Harden?
I accept the friendly amendment, correct.
Okay, good, thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Thank you, and thanks for bringing that up, Adam. I mean, it's going to be an issue. It's either going to be an issue or it's not. And you really know a lot about CSX's history in this area. They're not easy to deal with, as you know. Is there any other old or new business to come before us today? Hearing none, I call this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, and we'll look forward to talking to everybody about this time next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.